The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.
The international auditing company KPMG, a member of Big Four accounting firms, completed the financial audit of the partnership fund. According to the document, the net profit of the fund in 2021 amounted to 135 million lari. As of the 2021 consolidated financial statements of the partnership fund, all the leading economic indicators of the fund are positive. The executive director of Tbilisi Balneological Resort asks the state to promote balneological resorts of Georgia worldwide. As Salome Kudashvili states, there are resources to meet the high demand, but it remains low. According to her, 25% of their customers are foreigners, and Tbilisi Balneological Resort is visited both from the countries of the region and from France. The revenue of Georgian commercial banks hit a record high in 2022. 15 commercial banks earned a net profit of around 2 billion lari in total, which is 1.5 billion lari higher compared to 2021, according to the National Bank of Georgia, NBG. Non-interest income of banks amounted to around 1.86 billion lari, including commission fees of around 574 million lari, an increase of 24% year on year. According to statistics, one of the biggest costs for banks in the accrual of interest on deposits of citizens and commercial organizations. This is the Checkpoints. I'm Eleni Kvangelashvili, author and the anchor of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up Georgia's business and economics week for you. With a multi-million investment of the Georgian Slovak holding company Gino Holding and Slovakian Exim Bank, a new four-star hotel Gino Aquamarine was opened on the Tbilisi Sea. The hotel, the construction area which exceeds 17,000 square meters, is located in the resort area of the largest water park in Eastern Europe, Gino Paradise. In light of this large investment, our analyst Georgi Aronia had the chance to meet the chair of the Exim Bank's board, Marian Yanoko, and talk to him about the investment and Exim Bank's involvement in Georgia.
Mr. Yanochko, thank you very much for being with us and answering our questions today.
Thank you very much for being here.
Mr. Yanochko, you represent Exim Bank from Slovakia. It is my understanding that Exim Bank is a drastically different type of bank compared to regular commercial banking institutions. Could you elaborate a bit what type of deals you go to and how you operate in general?
Thank you very much for the question. First of all, I would like to emphasize that it's a great honor to be here in Georgia for first time. So thank you very much to Mr. Georgadze to having us here, and we are very pleased to be here. In connection with the Exim Bank, yes, as you mentioned, we are like a specialized financial institution, not a classical bank. In connection with the legal frameworks, I would tell that it's a classical export credit agency according to the consensus of OECD, and we are regulated within the consensus and within our legal regulation in Slovakia, and usually our main focus is to promote and help exporters to expand to different territories in the world.
So what is the relation between Exim Bank and traditional commercial banks in Slovakia?
Yeah, it's a great question. We see ourselves as complementary to the traditional commercial banking sector, and we try to be not a competitors, but a partners. There's a lot of products and a lot of instances and a lot of deals when we can be complementary to each other, and therefore we try to cooperate. Our first steps in connection with the banks and with the partnerships with the bank, we would like to have, let's say, a memorandum with each of the bank here in Slovakia, and try to find the sweet spots where we can take some risk which they cannot take, but at the same time they can export, we can promote our exporters to different territories. So basically we take commercial banks as our partners, not as competitors.
So we're here in Gino Aquamarine Hotel, which was built by Gino Holding. You mentioned Mr. Nodar Giorgadze. As I understand, this hotel was built with the help of Exim Bank, Slovakia and Exim Bank. What could you say about this deal, and could you share some details?
Yes. Yes, we financed the construction of this hotel, and it seems that it will be a very good success story, and we are really looking forward to it. And I think behind all the stories usually are like personal connections. So we found in Mr. Giorgadze that he's a respectful person, and we believe that he can build this. We have a long-standing relationship with him, and that's why we said yes to this deal. Of course, this deal had the normal business case. We evaluated it, and we are very happy that we have the cooperation with Mr. Giorgadze.
Is it your first investment in Georgia?
No, but with Mr. Giorgadze, we financed also the aquapark before.
Okay. Could you? So the deal with Aquapark is your first deal. I mean, okay. Are you planning to invest in other areas in Georgia too?
Yes.
Could you share some details?
There are ongoing discussions, but we have more open projects here in Georgia, and I think Mr. Giorgadze is quite a door opener here in Georgia. So I believe that we will have more deals here, and we are very much looking forward to it.
Given that you entered our country with an investment, how would you rate the investment climate here?
We evaluated, of course, on this also, because that's the standard of our evaluation process, and we evaluate it as a good business climate. Yeah.
And lastly, in your opinion, what could be done to strengthen the relationships between Slovakia and Georgia? I mean, trade relations and social relations and all the ties that could exist between two countries.
That's a great question, and we can do more. We can do a lot, and I think that, for example, we already agreed with Mr. Giorgadze that we will make an export club in April, and it will be like a lot of attendees, companies, exporters, importers from Georgia and also from Slovakia, and I think this kind of personal relationships will make a lot of more deals between our countries, and I think if countries and nations make trade between each other, I think they get also closer to each other, and I think this will establish also a long-standing relationship between nations.
Well, thank you very much, and I certainly hope so that your investment here in Georgia will bring additional investments in the future, and then our two countries will be friendlier towards each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
More on this week's business news and outlook from the checkpoints right now.
Nicholas Medzmariashvili, General Director of M Square, says the company is building the first skyscraper on Marshal Gelovani Avenue in Tbilisi. According to him, this will be the first skyscraper in the history of the company, whereas up to 500 apartments will be placed. The project includes up to 500 apartments. There will be 2 skyscrapers. It is important that we have never built a building higher than 100 meters, and this one will be 128 meters high. There will be several more buildings in the same area, said Nicholas Medzmariashvili. According to the General Director of M Square, in total the company is currently constructing 14 buildings in 4 locations with a total area of 700,000 square meters. Merab Nadaraya, the founder of snail-producing company Nadi Group, says that the company plans to export about 200 tons of snails abroad this year. In 2022, Nadi Group, together with the Norwegian company Arctic Finance, created a new company, Snail Catch. Within the framework of the project, the volume of snails increased dramatically last year. We expect the harvest of snails to be 200 tons late in 2023, of which we will probably export 150 tons abroad. The remaining part will remain in Georgia as a breeding product. The main export markets include France, Italy and Spain, said Nadaraya. Nadi Group is operating on the market since 2018. The investment of the Norwegian company in the Nadi Group amounts to €200,000. Tornike Samkharadze, executive director of Zarabkhana, told BMG that despite the fact that 90% of Zarabkhana's customers are Georgian citizens, the number of foreign customers hit a record high from the second half of the last year. According to him, in January 2023, there will be an increased demand for gold jewelry, accessories and souvenirs in the company stores. Last December ended with the highest sales mark for Zarabkhana. This January was the most active compared to all other years. In general, Q1 is passive compared to other quarters. As a result of economic growth, people had more money and customers become more active. In today's conditions, when jewelry has stabilized on the one hand, while on the other we make focus on international exchanges, where the price of gold is increasing for the last month, and this trend is still maintained, said the executive director of Zarabkhana, Tornike Samkharadze. AgroHub hypermarket chain will open 2 new branches in Tbilisi this year. As the general director of the company, Lasha Gotsiridze, told BMG, one branch will be opened in University Street, while the other in Svetgamsakhurdia Street in the wind city of the so-called ambulance territory. According to him, the opening of new branches was decided due to the increase in the company's income and the number of customers last year. Although last year's data is still being determined, I can tell you that it's at least a double-digit percentage increase. This is a pretty good figure, especially considering the pandemic. In addition, we have a lot of customers and their trust in us is high. Our response to this confidence is that we are moving forward and meeting 2023 with the new projects. Obviously, the opening of new branches leads to the creation of hundreds of additional jobs, says Lasha Gotsiridze. The first AgroHub hypermarket in Georgia was opened in December 2016. The company currently includes farms, a central enterprise and 3 branches. In total, it employs about 1,400 people. Mariam Shengelia, the sales manager of wooden cottage construction company Cottage BG, says the cost of construction materials has increased between 10-65% on average, which has also affected the price of their products. According to her, the main demand is from mountainous regions, and customers build cottages mostly for the business. The demand is quite high. We still have new ongoing projects, but from spring demand increases significantly. We mainly receive orders from mountainous regions, Racha, Ajara and Gudaori. Construction prices varies between 300-400 USD, said Mariam Shengelia. The sales manager of Cottage BG tells that their company is new on the market, launched before the pandemic in 2019. At this stage, they don't employ many people, although they are trying their best to involve and interest young people in their work.
Last week, 500 Georgia Demo Day was held in Tbilisi, during which startups pitched their businesses to the jury. 500 Georgia is Georgia's first international acceleration program designed to promote entrepreneurship, help develop the tech ecosystem, connect with international networks, and help participating companies with their fundraising. 500 Georgia operates based on the partnership between 500 Global, JITA, and the Bank of Georgia. Our analyst, Georgia Ronya, sat down to talk with with Pedro Vieira, Director of Operations and Startup Programs at 500 Global, about the accelerator's recent batch, their demo day, and the organization's plans for this year in Georgia.
Pedro, hi. It's always a pleasure to have you here, especially after the recent demo day. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here again.
Given that the latest demo day is now in the books, what could we say about it? Could you summarize it?
Yeah, so the demo day is a culmination of 12 weeks of hard labor with the companies where we take them through different stages of evolution. We divide it in 3 main phases. Phase 1, we talk about foundational things like customer development, business development. We help them create, say, the foundational layer for growth. That's 2 weeks, roughly. And then they go and work for about 8 weeks remotely from their home base on what we call growth experiments. So they test different things on how to grow faster, how to sell more, how to grow more efficiently with the help of our mentors. Then they come back for a phase 3, which is what leads up to the demo day. And in that phase, we focused more on aspects of fundraising strategy. How do they go and fundraise more to continue fueling the growth that they start experiencing during the program. And then we have Demo Day, which is a big event with local and international audience, where we expose them to the world and expose the world to them, and hope to start some conversations not just with other investors, international investors and local investors, but also with other partners and people who can or may be interested in helping them with their services and their solutions.
Pedro, given that you just summarized basically the whole acceleration process structurally, I want to ask you about your summary emotional as well. How did you and other team members engage with the founders during this process?
Yeah, well, it's certainly several of periods of different emotions, especially throughout the program. What we're experiencing, especially during these times, is that we were able to create a batch of very diverse nature, and we have founders from different countries, and Georgia is a very safe environment for us to bring all of these together. And so we've been seeing several companies collaborate in their growth cross borders. So it's been very emotional in that sense, that we see people of different cultures, different countries collaborating with each other in their growth.
With the demo day now over, what are the next steps for founders and their companies?
Yeah, so we're certainly continuing this growth that we've seen so far. Several companies have experienced 2-3x growth in their key metrics.
Oh, wow.
So we're very happy with that. And so we certainly want them to continue that growth. Many of them are winning in their regional or their local markets. Now we want to see them continuing that growth cross-border, cross-country or internationally, if you will. And so we'll continue supporting that. And then for that to continue, we also know that all of them will have need to fundraising. So we are also continuously supporting our portfolio companies to connect with other investors that will follow up on our investment and help fuel the growth that we kickstarted with a program like this.
I want to ask you about that recent point. Could you put 500 Georgia into perspective with 500 Global? And what is the community like? And could the startups that participated in 500 Georgia engage somehow with global startups?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, 500 Georgia is 500 Global. I know we have a family of funds around the world, and we brand them differently based on the region or the country, but we're all 500 Global portfolio. We have more than 2,700 funded companies around the world, 80 plus countries, and all of them are connected through a series of platforms. We have over 5,000 founders for these companies. They're all connected through a multitude of platforms. They can collaborate, can help each other enter different markets, learn on how to do certain things, and then not just connect with other founders, but they can also connect with a series of other experts who are or live and work and operate within these 500 communities. And in our staff, we have close to 200 people around the world with different fields of expertise that can also help the founders. So the 500 Georgia founders have access to all of this as any other 500 Global founder.
Would you mind comparing Georgian founders and their startups, their products, to those global or European or American startups?
Yeah. I mean, I don't like to single out different nationalities, especially because the program does include, as I was saying, several other countries. But what we see is in the Georgian founders that are in this batch, as the other founders in the batch, is that they're very ambitious, driven teams that have already demonstrated some success in their market, and they're driven to continue that growth outside that market to build global plays. We are investing in teams that we believe can grow to much more than just the Georgian market. So what we see in the Georgian founders that we've selected for this batch is exactly that. They're already doing very good things here in the market in Georgia, but they're also ready to start doing, going global, and we'll love to support that mission.
Now, when we look in retrospect to the recent batch, could you highlight some trends in terms of the sectors that companies originate from? I understand that all of them are tech related, but are there any trends within the tech sector?
Yeah, I mean, we avoid investing in trends or in popular. We invest in things that we know or demonstrate that are solving a big problem. And in this batch, we have a series. Like, we actually have several edtech companies, for example. It just happens that we had pretty strong candidates in the edtech field or vertical, and so we picked a couple. We have companies in fintech. We have companies in retail tech. So it's pretty diverse. Web3, several companies that are using AI and leading edge technology in different verticals, say for sales or for HR. So a very diverse batch. And this is going to continue being the trend. We are a diversified portfolio, or we're building a diversified portfolio. So we'll continue investing in a bunch of different things.
Out of those you just mentioned, in your opinion, which sectors have the most growth potential in Georgia, for instance?
I think, honestly, all of them have growth potential in Georgia, but what matters the most for us is the growth potential regionally. And in that scenario, all of them have huge potential. And some of them have huge potential because they are unique. Like, we have several companies that are applying like leading edge technology that almost no one in the world has. And there are others that are solving problems that were solved elsewhere with a proven business model. But these founders have local insights, they have the regional networks that the global players don't have. And we believe that these local teams can win over the global players. So we'll always have this, these two buckets of bets that we make. And we'll see. I think the time will prove if we're right.
Another fascinating thing about 500 Georgia is that when I looked at the batch, I saw a lot of founders that are not from Georgia. Could we say that 500 Georgia somehow transformed into a regional startup accelerator?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 500 Georgia is a regional program. We chose Georgia because we believe that given its nature, its conditions, local condition situation, its friendly attitude towards all the neighboring countries in the broader region, makes it a super interesting place for us to set up the regional hub. But we will continue attracting international talent. We will continue working with all the local talent and as much local talent as we can. We collaborate with the local investors, with the local accelerators, with the local angel investors, because we want to foster the Georgian ecosystem. But this is a regional program, so we'll continue getting more founders. In this batch, we have Armenian founders, Azerbaijani founders, Uzbek founders, Georgian founders, all working together, and like that is amazing in today's times, right?
So just to clarify from technical side, how can so basically Azerbaijani startup can freely apply to 500 Georgia, or they have to be present and operating in Georgia?
They have to have some connection to Georgia. Either they already also are operating in Georgia as an entity, or they are tackling the Georgian market. So there has to be some involvement of the company actively operating. I think that's how we define it in Georgia and the broader region. So that's how the connection happens for this batch.
Okay, let's announce the future batch. When will you open the applications for startups?
So we will open actually the applications are open since demo day. So the website is live. If you follow our URL, you will be able to apply immediately. And now is the time.
And my last question would be, what would be your advice to founders and the startups that are applying?
Yeah.
What are the qualities that you look most in startups?
Yeah. Well, first let me say you should apply as early as possible, as soon as possible. This is a process that takes time. We'll ask for a series of information that's detailed, and you can't just wing it, as we say, right? So you should prepare, and you should go check out the forms, the application forms, and start preparing. When you apply, we'll have a process with several webinars also where we go into more detail about the criteria that we use to select the companies. But I would say at a very high level, the key things are always show us in a very simple, concise way that the problem you're solving is something that a large number of people is worth paying to see solved. Then show us that you can solve it in a really unique way compared to all the other players out there. Or, as I was saying earlier, that you can do it with regional insights or local insights that give you an edge or create a moat over the global players, therefore you can do it here. If we see this, if we see that there's a team market fit, I always refer to this, it's very important. We know product market fit comes later in the stage for the companies that we bring on board. But it's very, very important for me to understand, is this the right team for this problem? So if you apply and you explain this very clearly, you're already like halfway through the selection process. And then, you'll have all the interviews with myself and the team to determine if you're the right company for our batch.
Well, Pedro, thank you very much for the interview, and thanks to 500 Georgia and your sponsors, your friends, for basically developing the Georgia startup ecosystem.
Well, thank you so much for hosting us so well, and we're happy that we're going to continue this journey for a long time.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now let us focus on what was new in Georgia's economy this week. Our reporter Natia Taktakishvili pulled together this week's economic news and outlook.
Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister of Georgia, held and led the executive government meeting at the government administration on Monday. The Cabinet of Ministers of Georgia discussed 7 agenda items. Topics of discussion included a draft government decree on the amount of maternity allowance and measures related to the paid maternity leave and childbirth support. In line with the referred draft government decree, total amount of allowance has been set at 2,000 gelari instead of the previously administered 1,000 gelari. In addition, teachers at public schools will be entitled to a full remuneration while being on leave during pregnancy, childbirth and childcare, as well as when adopting a child. The government decree will apply to female employees getting maternity leave during pregnancy, childbirth, childcare and adoption from January 1, 2023, in line with the legislation of Georgia. The Minister of Finance of Georgia says last year tourist sector received a record high income, noting that in 2023 tourism can be an important factor in accelerating the rate of economic growth. According to him, in 2022, tourism has recovered by 70% compared to the pre-pandemic rate, which allows to say that tourism has significant potential for growth. Last year, the recovery of tourism was quite strong. The received income exceeded $3.5 billion USD. This amount of income also surpassed the pre-pandemic rate, which was a record for Georgia. The process of tourism recovery is quite strong. However, it should be noted that the quantitative part of the tourist index has not yet returned to the figure we had before the pandemic. It's around 70%, which on the one hand indicates that tourism has a rather great potential to be an important factor in accelerating the pace of economic growth in Georgia in 2023. This year, the country has the possibility of over 30–40% growth, said Otishvili. 15 commercial banks operating in Georgia have already submitted their 2022 financial statements to the National Bank of Georgia. According to the report, commercial banks earned a record high revenue and net profit last year. As of the financial indicators, commercial banks received interest and non-interest income of 7.5 billion gelari last year, which was 1.5 billion gelari more than in 2021. profit before taxation was 2.33 billion GLR, which was 80% more than the previous year. From this amount, Georgian banks paid 406 million GLR as a profit tax, which was 75% more than the previous year. Accordingly, the net profit of Georgian banks amounted to over 2 billion GLR, which was 6 million GLR more than in 2021. The consolidated profit of the banking sector was negatively affected by the sanctions and losses of VTB Bank. Last year, the loss of VTB Bank exceeded 70 million GLR. The detailed data on the net profit directly generated by each bank will be published in a few days. From 2023, commercial banks will have to pay an increased profit tax of up to 20%. Last year, Georgian corridor handled more than 1,300 trucks per day. Only in December, over 45,560 trucks used the Georgian corridor in December. Toll revenues were also record-breaking, exceeding 15.9 million GLR in just 1 month. According to the data, the state budget received 66.4 million GLR from freight transportation. The figure was twofold up compared to 2021. The Georgian government has increased the toll for thousands of transit trailers from June 20, so each trailer will have to pay 350 GLR instead of 200 GLR. Georgia's Communications Commission elected Kaha Bekauri as chair of communications for a 3-year tenure for the third time. The communication anonymously backed his candidature in the secret ballot. Kaha Bekauri has been leading the Communications Commission since 2017. Georgian Parliament first elected him as commission member in 2014 and then re-elected him in 2019. In Q4 2022, the residential property price index in Georgia increased by 5.5% compared to the previous quarter, while the annual increase amounted to 14.3%, according to the preliminary data from the National Statistics Office of Georgia. Compared to the 2020 average, the index change amounted to 24%. The residential property price index covers the market of new residential property in Tbilisi, both flats and detached houses segments. In the fourth quarter of 2022, a price increase compared to the previous quarter was registered both in flats and detached house segments. Compared to the Q4 2021, the price increased in both segments, for flats by 12.5% and for detached houses by 18%.
This week, Giorgi Sakadze had the opportunity to conduct a sit-down interview with Irakli Baidashvili, who currently serves as the president of the American Chamber of Commerce. Baidashvili is the executive vice president of GMT Group. The company is one of the largest U.S. direct investments in Georgia, the owner of 2 Marriott hotels, the Funicular restaurant, and several major real estate sites in Tbilisi. He is also a member of the Investor G editorial board and resides on the Prime Minister's Professional Education Authorization Council on behalf of AmCham. He is also president of the National Barcoding Agency, GS1 Georgia. AmCham is the largest international business chamber in Georgia with more than 200 company members. Founded in 1998, AmCham's primary objective is to promote U.S.-Georgia ties and the improvement of the business environment in Georgia. They do this by working with the government to help shape improvements in the business regulations, facilitating connections between Georgian and international investors, and by supporting business and government links. According to AmCham, this is done in a range of ways. Through regular meetings, they keep members in contact with senior officials in the government of Georgia, the U.S. Embassy, and each other. The magazine Investor.G provides insights into changes in the economy and updates on the deals being done and the personalities behind them. Finally, committee work provides a vehicle for collecting opinions, conducting research, and lobbying the government on particular issues of importance to their members and the business community more widely.
Antonio Irakli, many thanks for your time and congrats with the elections.
Thank you very much, and it's really a great honor, and I mean personal privilege for me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for hosting us. Today is going to be the exemption when I'm not touching anything about GMT Group, but anyway, you're the host, so thanks for being in Marriott Tbilisi. I will not be original if I will say that this is one of my favorite places in Tbilisi.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor for us.
Tell us about the last year. I mean, 2022 was the year when you've been elected as an acting president of American Chamber of Commerce in Georgia. But as a short reminder to our viewers and followers, since 1998, if I'm not mistaken, AmCham is based in Georgia, was launched, founded, and from the very beginning, you in person, you as a representative, as a managing partner of GMT Group, are one of the founding members of AmCham in Georgia. Please tell us, what was AmCham in 1998 and where are we? 25 years, anniversary. We've just entered anniversary year.
Thank you very much for mentioning that. Actually, yes, we are in the year of anniversary for AmCham.
Wow.
As the organization was founded back in 1998 by a couple of different companies, quite a small group of the companies. If I remember correctly, it was 8 companies, including our company, which was the founding member of AmCham. This was from one side, and from the other side, the U.S. Ambassador, Ken Yalowitz. You remember him? Yes, one of the great U.S. ambassadors. He was also the initiator from the official side. Therefore, this was kind of a great cooperation
Embassy
as
and,
it started
yeah.
between AmCham and Embassy. And actually then we established a very good tradition when a new coming U.S. ambassador becomes the honorary president, or honorary chairman of AmCham, and we're keeping this tradition since then.
So it still goes on as it was from the very beginning, yeah?
One of the greatest features of AmCham is that whatever we established initially still goes on, and all the traditions and all the founding principles, the way we all founded AmCham, you can see it today, fulfilled and executed.
Never been revised.
If you look at the bylaws of AmCham or any other founding documents, you might see a couple of non-fundamental revisions. Otherwise, all the fundamentals we are keeping as a great tradition and as our founding principles.
The part of these traditions is electing period of AmCham leadership. I was a bit mistaken in regards of 2022, but after some revision and your comments later on, it was planned elections, what was held last year. Tell me about the details and tell me about the acting leadership of AmCham Georgia by 2023.
So as I told you, first of all the main founding principles we retained, which means that biannually, once in 2 years, AmCham elects its board and officers. And the president is elected for the 2-year term and can serve 2 consecutive terms. Therefore, all those presidents who have served AmCham for 2 consecutive 2-year terms then need to resign from the presidency and give the way to the new upcoming other president. Of course, it doesn't mean that after several terms of the other presidents, the same people cannot run. And we have experienced this. The previous terms, 2 terms, have been served by Sarah Williamson, one of the greatest AmCham presidents, I would say, without any exaggeration. The more so, Sarah, by the way, has been one of the unique persons in our universe, AmCham's universe, because she is one of the first female AmCham presidents. And if you are talking about the region, she was actually the first female AmCham president in the whole region. Mike Cowgill, who currently serves, has been elected as the first vice president, has served also 2 consecutive years as the president. Another good news is that it was my suggestion to the General Assembly that because of Sarah's very special role and personal input, we asked her to serve as a chairman emeritus of AmCham.
What does it mean, sir?
The General Assembly approved that. This means that she does not have to spend daily time on AmCham activities, but she's kind of an honorary chairman.
Chairman, okay, I got it.
And having the title to still represent AmCham with any other counterparts, would that be official counterparts or business partners or partners abroad.
Irakli, you mentioned about the new team, and you mentioned about Michael Cowgill, who is elected as a first vice president. Tell us about the other representatives of the leadership.
We've got, happily, quite a refresh in the composition of the board and the officers. George Tkelidze, Goga Tkelidze, who is the deputy CEO of the TBC Bank, the organization having probably one of the best reputations in town, but also Goga himself as a personality.
Absolutely.
Really great personal reputation within the business community of Georgia, has been elected as the vice president and treasurer, which means that he will be overlooking all the financial issues of the chamber. It's great honor for me to say, and I always repeat it with any counterparts, that AmCham is one of those bodies in town which constantly has a growth potential and does grow, but also constantly has a very healthy financial status and healthy financials. And this is part of the success that gives us gravitas within the business community of Georgia today.
Irakli, my last but not the least is a question about the plans for 2023. You definitely have something which is scheduled, which is preliminary, suggested and shared with your members and by your executive team. What kind of follow-up will we have with those who are decision makers within this country, and you as one of the most powerful business association and network, let me say so, you're covering your sort of bridge and lobby for those who might need better quality of communication with the decision maker. It doesn't mean they're from government, parliament, or just regulatory bodies. What's the schedule for 2023 of AmCham Georgia?
Thank you for the question. When I was running for the presidency, my humble commitment to the membership was that I would be adhering to several fundamental principles. One, of course, is that with all my expertise and knowledge and work, I will try to retain the weight and the classiness of the organization throughout my term. Second is that we need to retain all the positive roots and principles we have been traditionally pursuing since we have been established, and this means almost daily work. We're talking about working with the legislative power of the country. We're talking about very close relations and working with the executive bodies, with the counterparts, with the international organizations, financing institutions, and one of the main fundamentals of AmCham daily activities is to help make Georgia a better place for investors, for foreign investors, but also, not less importantly, for the local business community.
Good luck with your plans. Good luck with your agenda. My best wishes to your executive team. I'm talking about the AmCham executive team. They're working fantastically. And the new leadership of AmCham Georgia. And maybe it's too early, but congrats to AmCham Georgia for fantastic 25 years being in Georgia.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor for me. And this is hugely supported by the fact that we've got unique and excellent executive team, excellent board, excellent officers, which is a provision for the fact that these 25 years of success is only a good start.
Absolutely, yes. Cheers.
Thank you.
Excellent wine. And bon appetit.
And same to you.
Thank you, sir.
The International Chamber of Commerce, ICC, has launched a new Center of Entrepreneurship in Tbilisi, Georgia, to support the business environment for entrepreneurs and small and medium-sized businesses, SMEs in the country and across the Central Asia and Caucasus region. The new Center of Entrepreneurship will work with various stakeholders in Georgia and the wider Caucasus region, including local business organizations and academic institutions, to support entrepreneurs and accelerate the transition of small businesses and startups into cross-border commerce by providing high-impact training, digital platforms, and market opportunities. Over 50 Georgian business leaders and international representatives joined ICC Secretary General John Denton and ICC Georgia Chairman Fadi Asli in officially launching the Tbilisi hub of the ICC Center of Entrepreneurship at an event held in the country's capital.
International Chamber of Commerce and ICC Georgia launched a Center of Entrepreneurship hub in Georgia, which will cover the region, Caucasus region and Central Asia. The aim of this project and platform is to support the business environment, to improve the business environment for small and medium businesses and entrepreneurs and startups. The Center of Entrepreneurship will tightly work with stakeholders, academic institutions, and local organizations to support and accelerate the smooth transition of the small and medium businesses into cross-border commerce by providing professional high-impact trainings, access to digital platform and market opportunities. And we do believe that this center will turn Georgia into regional hub to become efficient tool for developing the skills of new generation, to help them better understand how business works and equip them with all necessary information so that they succeed and contribute to the prosperity of their countries.
As you just heard, the center is thought to play a very important role in strengthening and improving the startup and business ecosystem in Georgia, where SMEs represent more than 90% of businesses, thereby stimulating economic growth and the creation of job opportunities. Through the center, youth and aspiring entrepreneurs will also be able to gain knowledge and acquire new skills as ICC aims to shape and inspire the future generation of business leaders. Director and Head of Transformation at International Chamber of Commerce headquarters, David Antia, will be personally involved in setting up the center in Georgia. Expert in corporate strategy, organizational transformation, business and operating model re-engineering, performance improvement, change management and project delivery, David Antia has the background in strategy and operational management, consulting in two big fours, EY and Deloitte, across 5 industries, international organizations, financial services, asset management, pharmaceuticals and telecommunications, and more than 10 countries. Antia left Georgia with the family when he was just 14. The Checkpoints had a chance to talk to the professional face-to-face.
I'm originally from Georgia. I was 14 when the family moved and migrated to Ireland. I spent the first couple of years in my professional career working for various management consulting firms. And this is where I kind of built my transformation expertise. Then we moved to London, so we've been living in London over the last 5 years. Recently, I've joined the International Chamber of Commerce to also help the organization to transform so that we can maximize our impact on the business sector. I love my country, so I always look for opportunities to travel back when I can and to also provide some value for the country when I can.
How does Georgia fit into that picture?
Yes, so in Georgia, we have just recently launched this new initiative called Centers of Entrepreneurship, which will look at helping Georgian small and medium-sized enterprises to get access to international markets. We will do it by basically doing 3 things. Number 1 is to build capacity and capabilities to coach them on how to go about international trade. So anything from designing scalable, agile business models to to building digital marketing capabilities, to understanding how to better understand compliance requirements and comply with different regulations. We'll coach them basically on how to go about successfully following international expansion strategy. We will also provide access to finance so that Georgian SMEs can basically finance their international ambition. And number 3, we will give them access to network, which is quite difficult for local businesses, given when you're looking to do international trade, you need access to distributors, local partners, international customers, and it can be quite difficult to get access to. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to link, so this is the 12th center that we have launched. We're going to connect all these 12 centers so that it's going to create a large network, as you can imagine. But also as the institutional voice of 45 million businesses, we have access to the largest business network, and we will try to tap into that to give Georgian SMEs again access to this wealth of network. The idea is then across these 3 different pillars, so from building capabilities to providing access to finance to providing access to network, we will make it easier for Georgian SMEs to get access to international trade and therefore increase their participation, which will increase their productivity and will have a very positive effect on the overall Georgian economy.
Is it part of the overall global strategy of ICC to focus more on MSME sector and startups? And why do you view Georgia as a regional hub? Because this will be the center for Caucasus and Central Asia as well.
Yes, that's a very good question. So in the last few years, we became very focused on also representing SMEs around the world. SMEs are backbone of the global economy. They employ over 90% of all people in the world, and they obviously, have a significant role to play in the global GDP development. So they play a very significant role in the world as a result, and they were traditionally underrepresented and on international affairs. So we decided to become the voice of SMEs as well. So a lot of programs we've been running in the last few years have been focused on building capacity of SMEs, but also representing them in all the decision-making forums. Now, the Centers of Entrepreneurship is a unique program, as I mentioned earlier, that will build SMEs access to international markets by building their capabilities, giving them access to network, and also giving them access to finance. And we've launched Centers of Entrepreneurship already in 11 different markets. Georgia is our 12th market. And the reason why we've come to Georgia is basically two key reasons. Number one, although they're a vital part of Georgian economy, they employ over 62% of people in Georgia, they contribute over 53% to Georgian GDP. So although they're a vital player and they're the backbone of Georgian economy as well, they are not as active on international stage as they could be. So less than 10% of Georgian SMEs are actually engaged in international trade, which means they're not as productive as they could be, which means they are also not able to have as much impact on employment and Georgian economy as they could. So number one is to really enable them to access international trade, to maximize their potential, increase their productivity and their impact on Georgia as a country. But the second factor is Georgia's strategic location and the potential the country has to become the regional leader in innovation and entrepreneurship for Caucasian countries potentially, for Central Asia. So by setting up the Centers of Entrepreneurship from Georgia, what we're hoping to do is not only support Georgian SMEs, but also to support SMEs in the region and develop the whole ecosystem around this region through Georgia.
And also, what are some of the needs of the MSME sector and startups in Georgia? What do you see on the surface? Let's say, because I know that you will be conducting and you will be mapping this needs for Georgia specifically.
As you just said, the focus for us over the next few weeks will be to really study Georgian ecosystem in detail to really understand and analyze the needs of Georgian SMEs. And then we'll design a program that will be tailored to the needs of Georgian SMEs. But what we've seen in other centers, so to just draw lessons from some of the other locations, from some of the other developing countries where SMEs require help, is that most of the time they require help around these three pillars that I mentioned earlier. Usually a lot of SMEs don't know how to go about international expansion, so they don't have the experience needed and knowledge needed on how to go about it. So basically, usually, our training programs are tailored to upskill SMEs and give them that knowledge that is required to go engage in cross-border commerce. So there's going to be a training component, but it will very much be tailored to the needs of Georgian SMEs. Again, we've seen another trend around the world where, again, SMEs struggle to get access to the network of partners, distributors, clients, all that. So we usually, again, the trend shows, our analysis from other locations shows that a lot of SMEs will need help with the network. So our assumption is that this will apply to Georgian SMEs as well. But again, we will see what the discovery and research shows us. And then third will most likely be around access to finance, so that again we can finance their expanding ambition. So we have some assumptions. We have, based on our initial research, we think we need to design the program around these three key pillars, but the further analysis will show exactly how to tailor it.
Yes, so something tells me this won't be our last interview. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for today. Next Sunday, you will hear more about the ICC Center of Entrepreneurship. Before that, follow us on BM.G and Forbes.G. See you soon.
The Checkpoint is presented by GM Pharma, the first international multinational pharmaceutical company in Georgia. GM Pharma, to serve those who need it most.